All right, let's get this second session underway. I hope you get out of it. It's always a popular conference topic, how community sport and education providers can work better together. By touching on insight, hearing case studies and support available, this session is where we're going to hear how we can create mutually beneficial partnerships between community sport and education settings, both mainstream and SEND, to provide more inclusive opportunities for children and young people, which is most important, of course. So please welcome Andy Wright, Arup Tanner, who will be joined by Tom Brown and Natasha Britton. So welcome up, please.
Morning, everyone. I'm Arup Tanner. I'm Disability Cricket Manager at Sussex Cricket. I'm also a champion for the Disability Sports Network. When we were putting the plans together for the agenda for today, invariably the topic of working with children and young people and education settings came up. It's always a favourite as a former audience member. It's always something that I was particularly interested in. And specifically, we were thinking about, well, what can we cover today? So I have to say, I am partly to blame for what we're going to cover today, because we've got a selfish interest in this. We're going to look at transition from SEND and special schools, transitioning participants in those settings into community settings. How can we move students out of the school environment into taking part and playing sport in a community club is one area we're going to look at. And the second area we're going to look at is working with mainstream schools and provision within mainstream schools for students with special educational needs. Both hot topics for me. I know, talking to some of my fellow sports providers around there, that's a hot topic. So we're going to cover a couple of case studies. But I'll bring you back to when I first started in my role 5 years ago, and I was given the role of being Disability Cricket Manager at Sussex. The first person I went to talk to get some help was Gemma. And Gemma gave me contacts. She talked to me about events, and she shared insight with me, which got me up and running to set up the programme that we run today. So when we were planning the call, I was listening to some of the latest developments with the Children and Young Persons team here at Active Sussex, and I was kind of like, wow, not only can you just do what you've done before, but a whole lot more. So part of this session is going to be me and all of it, basically shamelessly plugging what these guys at Active Sussex can do in terms of helping you to plan transition from special needs schools into community settings and also working in mainstream schools. And our guide through that journey in terms of what they can do is Andy. So I'm going to hand over to Andy now, and he's going to tell you a little bit about what these guys are doing at Active Sussex.
Is this one working? It is. Good. Thank you, Arup. So yeah, I'll try and guide you through. Firstly, it's great to see you all today. Many of you I've met online, but great to see a lot of you in person today. And really enjoyed the first session. The things that really stood out for me were just the support, the understanding and the inclusion. And great to see that amongst the room today. So, start off with the agenda for our session. Going to start off with a bit of insight, our learning for a report that we published a few weeks ago. Then we're going to talk about our support at Active Sussex through our Children and Young People team. And then, as has been said, we'll go through a couple of case studies with some breakout sessions in between. So a bit of background to start with. So Chief Medical Officer guidelines, really important to follow. So for children, this is 60 active minutes a day. If you achieve 60 active minutes a day, you're classed as active. Between 30 and 59 minutes, you're classed as fairly active. Anything less than that, you're less active. For children with disabilities, the recommendation is 20 minutes a day. And as you can see on there, it's suggested as this being starting slowly, bite-sized chunks, and challenging but manageable activities. And when we send this through, you'll be able to click on the link there, which is to the Chief Medical Officer's guidelines. In Sussex, you can see on the chart on the right, it shows the report from the Active Lives survey from last year. And you can see the different breakdown between the different sectors there, the less active in pink, the fairly active in orange, and then active and green. And we're slightly better in Sussex than nationally, which is good. So from the Active Live survey, there are 4 priority groups that we, the data shows that we should be working with. Girls, Black and South Asian groups, low-income families, and children with disabilities. So they're the 4 areas that we focus our support and our funding on. And so this then shows where we focused our funding from in 21-22 in terms of our target for the 4 different areas, and then the actual amount of investment that we did spend last year. So you can see that it was a bit higher for disabled young people than we originally thought we would do. The one caveat there is that quite a few of those do overlap, so providers would have worked with a couple of the different target groups at the same time. So this shows a bit of a breakdown of the different types of impairment as shown in the Active Live survey. And the middle bar, there's percentages up there, shows the percentage less active for each of the recognised groups. And then on the right hand side it shows the number of survey responses we had for each of those groups, just to show you the kind of the range of different types of young people that got involved. The one challenge we do have with the Active Live survey, and we do this on behalf of Sport England, is that we struggle to get data from special schools. Okay, so that data is just for young people in mainstream schools. So in terms of the actual outputs, so that's broken down there for 7 to 11-year-olds and 12 to 19-year-olds. So 7 to 11 at the top, we've got the first chart targeted to disabled young people and those projects that weren't so targeted but still had children with different disabilities. And actually, annoyingly, we didn't necessarily have as many young people with disabilities even if it was really targeted. And that was due to that, from that first slide that showed actually they were looking at a multiple range of different things. So it might be that it was a really girl focus or from area of deprivation as well. So a little bit of a learning, which I'll go into in a second. Bit more success in the 12 to 19-year-olds, where we did have more children with disabilities taking part, especially where we had it targeted. So it gives you a bit of a raw idea of the numbers on there. So a couple of key bits we took out from this report in terms of going forward for this year is making sure that our grant process is a bit more robust and making sure that a provider is really clear on what their primary target group is. So we had some really good providers such as Natasha and Parable Dance who really focused down on supporting children with disabilities. But we've had others, also good providers, but because they had multiple aims, they didn't necessarily reach the target we thought we might achieve. Also, in terms of our ability to get the data, I mean, I moan a lot about collecting surveys, and those who've had funding from us will hear me say it before. But it's really important we get 2 lots of surveys at the start and the end of a project, and actually making sure that the questions we're asking are right as well. And as it says on there, the 12 to 19 survey will be amended to match the impairments by which activity rates are reported. We had that for 7 to 11-year-olds, but not for 12 to 19-year-olds this last year. And we're consulting with disability experts to make sure we've got that right. Okay, so there are a few learnings we've taken. This full report is available on our website. Henry, our Insight Officer, has done a good kind of talk-through description of the key findings, and there's a fuller version on there. We'll make sure we share that with the presentation. So, digging a bit deeper. So where are disabled young people and children with special educational needs in mainstream schools? So this shows the kind of the top 20 schools that have a high number of children with special educational needs. All these schools in here, some you may be aware of, some you may be working with already. We can help connect you with these schools through ourselves, through the School Games Organised network we connect with. And so if there is a school on there, you're looking at it in your patch and you think, wow, there's a group, there's a higher number than we realise, then we can help you connect. And then this shows you where all these special schools are in Sussex. And this is not all, it's the top 20 again, we couldn't fit them all in one slide. But we will share the full list. And this just shows the ones with the higher numbers in Sussex. So again, if there's schools in there you want to connect with that are local to you in your district, then please get in touch and we can help you connect with them. Some of them are even in the room today, such as Woodlands Mead and Tom was speaking about. So that's enough about the kind of the insight, the reporting, the bits that we've learned. A bit more about the support that we can offer at Active Sussex, which, as Rup said, he was very keen that we did have a bit of a plug of that today. So we have a team of 4 that support children and young people at Active Sussex directly, and then actually most of our team does fit into and support children and young people in various different ways. So this model here shows that for us, children and young people are at the heart. And then we have an active schools officer, which is David Taylor, who you may have come across. We have an active events officer, which is Ed Bartram. We have an active workforce officer, Nick over there, actually supports adult workforce too, but for this perspective, the CYP bit of that. And then myself as one of the strategic managers at Active Sussex, but I also have a bit of a focus on the communities angle as well. And this fits into a framework that we've produced to really try and show you where our support is and how it connects to our strategy at Active Sussex, but also the Sport England strategy, especially around positive experiences for children and young people. And again, I'll share the full version of that with you. This just gives a bit more of a breakdown of what we do within those 4 different roles. So my bit, on the second bit, the active communities, targeted inequalities, as I've already shown through the reporting bit, learning to inspire, capturing brilliant case studies, learning from each other, talking like we are today, and hopefully we'll do more in a minute. Community voice, making sure we're connecting with community district groups, focus groups, making sure both young people and the providers in different areas have a voice, and really getting that local lived experience. And also the wider benefits beyond just physical activity, making sure we can support mental health and well-being, supporting maybe some crime reduction elements as well that we started to look into as well. And you can see the broader range of the bits that we support for our CYP team there. And again, I'll share that with you. So, nice bit you'll like to hear. Funding. We do have funding. We have our Children and Young People Investment Fund, the original name. But it is there, open again this year. We have a decent amount of funding this year to be able to offer to community groups, and as you've seen, there is a chunk that is earmarked for disability-focused projects. When you get this presentation, you'll get the link to the criteria and eligibility and the safeguarding requirements. If you are interested, I'll then send you an expression of interest. And then there is a full application form for you to fill in. The main requirements really are that we get a nice case study, we get a couple of surveys, and to make sure that you're really targeting young people, you're listening to them, and also you're making sure there's a good chance of it being sustainable beyond the end of the project. At the moment, this is for this financial year. Okay, so projects will probably need to start towards the end of the year, beginning of the year, if you're going to get a project of a decent amount of timing that would finish by the end of this financial year. And I think that is about it from me, unless there's any direct questions around our support at Active Sussex and our funding at this stage. Standing silence. Great, cool. I'll pass on back to Rup and Tom.
Stand too close to the speakers. Thank you very much, Andy. That's brilliant. So just a little bit of background for myself. My name is Tom Brown. I am a deputy head at Woodlands Mead School. I may not have Olympic medals, but I did notice we were ranked #1 in the biggest school in West Sussex, so I'll take that. So Woodlands Mead School is a generic special school. We range from 2 to 19. We are split sites. So we have a school site that is 2 to 14, and then we have a college site which is 14 to 19. That's basically the history of the school. So a group came to us a little while ago, but again, I think I just need to give you a little bit of background about the clubs and what we offered. As a school, we found it hard to run clubs. The reason being, first of all, there was like the expertise within our school, and also just asking teachers as well to stay behind school and teach for that little bit longer. That was one of the issues. And also, I've spoken to other special schools, it's all about attracting numbers as well. Because a lot of our students come from around the county, actually relying on transport from parents was hard, so we could put on the clubs, but then actually the numbers that we got was very minimal. So luckily I met Arup. We met at the Parallel Youth Games. Is that another plug for Active Sussex? I think it is, that's good. So we were playing cricket there, and the group of students I took, there was 8 students we took. 1 had played cricket before, the other 7 I think we maybe forced into it or just sort of thought they might be the right ones to do. But yeah, some of them enjoyed it, some of them didn't enjoy it. But me and Arup got talking anyway, and we started talking about clubs and how we could help each other, how we could work together, how could you develop our skills of our pupils and make them better cricket players. So Arup had Super 1 set up, I think, originally, but you were struggling to attract numbers.
From my perspective, this was what we're talking about 2018, aren't we? When we got together. So back in 2018, my agenda was to set up community clubs across Sussex. I had funding to do that. And the reason we were doing that was because your local cricket club, traditional cricket club, if you went along to that and you had a disability, you wanted to take part, quite often the answer is we can't help you. And traditional cricket clubs don't have disability sections. So in absence of that, we are funded to put on community clubs across the county. So I'd had an experience of, a number of experiences of trying to set up clubs in different locations across Sussex. And I did the classic thing of, I'll just book the Triangle in Burgess Hill, I'll do a few taster sessions, send some flyers out, and the people will come. And of course, nobody came. And so it was a real challenge for us to think about, how are we going to recruit people to come to our clubs? And I had an interesting conversation actually. There was a couple of things that got mentioned to me. One was, and it's been covered off in the earlier session actually, was sometimes you need to do exclusive sessions for target groups in order to then transition them to a more inclusive setting, community environment. So the key things that were coming across was, if you want somebody to come and join a club who's not necessarily played your sport before, so maybe don't have the confidence to play your sport before. They certainly haven't played competitively, and they certainly haven't played in an extracurricular environment outside of school. They're not just going to walk into a club if you advertise it on a flyer and hope they turn up. So it made me think about, how can I work with schools to really build people's confidence up as participants, to come to a club in an external setting away from school down the line. And so that was when we bumped into each other, really, because that was really at the forefront of my mind. The other point that somebody made to me was that if you can't build trust with parents and carers for a club, they aren't going to come. They are as important, if not more important, to win over in terms of community club settings. So that's when I came to Tom, really, and said, actually, this is what I'm looking at doing. Can we set something up with you guys?
And that's sort of, I've just written down here, pupil and parents' anxiety, the reason it didn't work. They didn't fit into the mainstream models that you had running. The behaviour needs of our students, or the medical needs, or the knowledge and the equipment wasn't meeting the needs of our students. And as you say, it's as much the parental anxiety a lot of the time, as much as the pupil anxiety. They've been to them before, it's failed, so they won't try it again. So it's about building up their confidence. So what we did with the super hubs to attract participants is we put on a club at Woodlands Mead. We knew we had the base there already, the pupils that wanted to go, the skills. So this sort of started off, first of all came in and ran taster sessions with our students within the school day. This was to build up the confidence and the trust between the pupils and Arup and his coaches. It was also a familiar setting, so it was a known venue. They weren't going to somewhere new, so they felt confident with that. And it helped overcome the barriers that our students had going to the Triangle or where else, and they actually felt confident that they could do this. So yes, as we say, the Super Hubs was launched.
Yeah. So Andy, do you want to show the video? We'll show you the actual club when it this was 1 year on from when the club started, but to give you an idea of the sessions that we were running at the time. It is one of our new hubs. We started here in October. Week 1 we started off with 7 participants. We ran some Super Ones taster sessions during the school day and very rapidly got up to about 14 regular attendees. It's a very diverse group. We have a mixture of regular cricketers, some that play club cricket, some that play county Super Nines cricket, some that play VI cricket, but we've also got the majority who've never played any cricket or done any sport as a school club or an outside of school setting.
Kieran is currently in year 9. He has a ADHD with speech and language disorder. He doesn't get an opportunity because obviously if we're in a mainstream school he wouldn't get that opportunity at all as he's had a negative experience.
My mum signed me up for it because she thought it was good for me, and it is.
We get to the point where he actually enjoys going to the Super Ones on a Wednesday afternoon.
For this particular Super Ones club, and actually all of them, the social inclusion aspect is the big thing. You know, I talk to the parents and they say the opportunity for their children to play cricket and do something outside of school and make new friends is massive.
I can make a bigger friendship so I don't lose anyone and don't be alone.
It's good exercise and I love joining the team.
I think as a group they're very, very supportive of each other. I think if you ask most of the participants, they feel like they've got a new set of friends and they like coming out and hanging around and smashing a ball about on a Wednesday afternoon.
It makes me happy. Thank you.
So yeah, that was the club we set up. That was, as it says, a Wednesday after school club. But one of the things that, in chatting to Tom and the school, they were brilliant about was it wasn't exclusively for their students. So we did have people from the community coming along and joining in the session. And the school was, we had some security issues at the front door in terms of people coming in, but the school did brilliant to overcome that and welcome people from outside. So what you then had for the participants was not only the experience of playing the sport with people that are at school, but making new friends, which was equally as exciting for those guys as well. So we ran that for probably about a year and a bit, didn't we? It was just over a year we ran that session before moving them on, but I'll come back to that shortly if you want to.
I think you can move on. I was just about to say, I mean, for me, this is what we actually set out to achieve. We got our club, but I think it's just what we're going to go on to now. It's how much more it has sort of created on from that. So
at the time, as I referred to earlier, there weren't any clubs, cricket clubs with a disabilities section specifically. But I was approached by Anstey Cricket Club, which was not too far away from Woodlands Mead. And they said, well, we're interested as part of a club development plan. They were putting in a new pavilion, redeveloping their facility there, that they wanted to run disability-specific sections for cricket. So they came along to our session and had a look and said, actually, we're really interested in doing that. Coincidentally, at that time, the ECB, the England Wales Cricket Board, announced funding to help promote the creation of disability sections of cricket clubs. So they came to me and I actually had the opportunity to provide them with some funding, some equipment, some professional development for their volunteer coaches as well, and promotional assets to create a section. So we got together and worked out that we could run something at Anstey Cricket Club with a couple of their volunteer coaches. So this here is Anstey here, there's their brand new pavilion there. So what we did is we moved from a Wednesday, having established the confidence of the participants, having built the relationship with the parents, we took that big step and said, hey guys, we're going to a Saturday morning now. it's cricket season, we're going outside, and we're going to go to a cricket club. And they all came, all of them, without any question whatsoever, which was a massive step in kind of validating the approach we were taking. That session has now been running for 2 years. There's some photos here of the guys, so that we went indoors to outdoors. I think probably, well, most, if not all of them, are still at the club, and we've managed to recruit more participants as well. And they have really, I think one of the things I really want to point out is it's not just about the participants, but the families have really, really bought in to the idea of being at a community club. So, and Anstey Britain, they do quiz nights, they do Skittles nights, they do barbecues, they get the guys involved in promoting the club, volunteering as well. Tom and I are on the WhatsApp group for this Super Ones Club. The traffic is constant in terms of all sorts of things, and you know, the families have really bought in. So Saturday morning, if you went down to Anstey Cricket Club, you'll see these guys out there, but you'll also see a thriving parent and carer social network going on there, and they've really been absorbed into the heart of the club. So it's been, you know, it's been fantastic from that perspective, and it culminated. Well, it's not culminated; it's still going on. But the last T20 game at Hove, the guys were invited to be flag bearers to welcome the players on the pitch. First time a lot of them had been to a T20 match. First time a lot of the parents and carers had been to a match at Sussex as well. Some of those guys are now playing for our county squads as well. But the other thing they're interested in doing, and perhaps this is the most important thing from my point, as an exit route for participants, is some of these guys, they're actually wearing their Anstey shirts. They're going to be playing for teams at Amstey as well. And they've become part of the fabric of the club, which is, from what I'm required to do from the England Wales Cricket Board, is a big tick. So that's the kind of journey we've been on. But perhaps you probably want to talk some more about the pastoral stuff and the values that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just sort of. Fab had said it this morning as well, hadn't she? The main things is that purpose. A lot of our students, they actually feel they have a purpose now, and they have something other to talk about than Minecraft and Roblox and other things that I perhaps don't want to listen about as much. But now they talk about cricket and other sports, which is brilliant. But also those relationships, the friendships that they've built, health purposes, you know, health benefits that they get. And as Arup said, it is for the parents as well. I went along one Saturday morning, and you know how much it means that they have a reason to get up on a Saturday morning and to go out and to meet other parents and to talk with them. They did promise me bacon sandwiches, but they didn't come that morning. Again, I missed out that one, but it's just incredible. And I mean, the wellbeing side of this, it fits in so well. As an educational setting, PSHE became statutory in 2020. Huge emphasis on physical and mental wellbeing. So the fact that we are, you know, we're not only helping within the education setting, we're getting them out in the community. This is going to have huge knock-on effects. Parents' well-being, we've done a big study, especially since lockdown as well, about how parental anxieties have huge knock-on effects with the pupil anxieties. And if we can get the parents feeling better about themselves and give them a purpose, it's only going to have positive effects on the pupils as well, which is great. So we're sort of thinking about the next step and how we can move this forward. And as a college and as a school, we've introduced enrichment afternoons. So we've taken this model, thought about how it's worked. As we've said, not everybody can get to after-school clubs. So we now, on a Tuesday afternoon, we come off timetable and we run clubs. Yes, some of it will be drama, music, there's some arts, some do Lego, different things, but a big part of this is sport. And this is sort of our next step now of how can we give them the skills and what they need, but then take that out into the community. How can we link that together? How can we give them opportunities? Again, Fab said that this morning about giving them different opportunities. We've luckily got in touch with Hurst College. I mean, we've taken them down to like the driving range. They've used the nets at bowling down at Burstall Cricket Club and different things like that. And they even had a chance once to play lacrosse. Yeah, who plays lacrosse? I don't know, not me. But it's again, just giving them that opportunity. They might be incredible at lacrosse, so let's give them those opportunities. And as well as that, we're looking at, we concentrate very much on skills. We have our practice skills, which we just thought about, and it links in very much. It thinks about all the things they get from sport, like perseverance. They learn respect, adaptability, communication and teamwork, as well as independence, but creativity and their emotional regulation, how they can control their emotions through sport as well. So this is sort of how we're moving it forward. And just to sort of reiterate that, it's amazing. We have annual reviews every year for our students, once a year. And I've found that we talk for about 5 minutes about their academic progress and how well they're doing in lessons. And for the rest of the time, we're talking about how can we give my child an interest or a hobby? How can we get them out in the community? You've got to bear in mind that a lot of our students come from far and wide. We've got them from Worthing and East Grinstead. And as a school, we can do so much in our local area, but actually reaching out to these different areas, this is where we need support, this is where we need to network and help each other. But yeah, we give them these skills through our enrichment afternoon, we link them into the community, but then it's giving them that confidence to go out into their community, to make friends, build relationships, get healthy, get active, and do what they need to do. So that sort of like leads us on to the next bit. We've got other clubs. Burgess Hill Football Club came and spoke to Arup recently because they I don't think they mind me saying this, they say they are an inclusive club. At the moment I think they have one child with an EHCP out of 650, so there's work to be done, but we're getting there. But it's raising awareness on that, and Burgess Hill Cricket Club are also interested in doing something, so there's people out there that want to do things. But the last thing I sort of wanted to say, I suppose, is we talk about this, and this is great that we're sharing the flag bearing and people are going off to play for Sussex, people are playing for Anstey, but the other important thing is it's giving them hobbies and interests. For some of our students, they may not go into playing, they may go into coaching. It was interesting to hear that this morning. I've got people who would love to go into coaching and do that way. But for others, it is just giving them something to do on a Saturday. So the fact that they went down and watched the 2020, they could now go down and have a purpose at a weekend or on a midweek, and they can go and watch the cricket. They might just end up in the pub with other people who like the cricket, and they can talk to them and do things like that. But it's giving them something to do. Sorry, that's not very active, is it, going to the pub? But, I've done bad, but yeah, but it's all good. And it sort of comes from the fact of, a few years ago I was given the fact of, I think I've got this right, I'm trying to remember it, I'll have to look it up, but it's 5.1% of people with a learning disability go on to have a full-time paid employment. So that's an awful lot of people that have to fill an awful lot of time when they're older. So it's giving them something to do with their time. So yeah, if they can go out, have a hobby, do something, have something to talk about, meet friends, that is going to help them moving forward. And I actually then just had a look, and I'm sure it's 4.8 for females as well, so it's less for females, so it's about getting the girls into it as well. So this started off as something small. I just wanted a club out of it, basically, to give the parents maybe a couple of hours off after school. It's developed into so much more, and I think it can still go even further.
Yeah, no, Tom and I were talking just before earlier about you do a lot of work with mainstream schools, don't you? And supporting their Senko units, and so we've now got a plan to go out and work together with mainstream schools using Tom's connection. So it's not all one way at all. It's all about how we collaborated, and we'll keep going. Right.
So a brilliant case study, and thank you for sharing, guys. And just shows the power that sport can have, really, doesn't it? And if we can get many, many more of those connections with all the special schools in Sussex, then we're onto a real winner. So thank you for sharing that, guys. Okay, we're going to move on there now to our next case study, and I'm pleased to have Natasha here from Parallel Dance. This is a different case study because it's a different partner, in that they are working with a number of different schools and organisations to try and get more young people active. So I'll pass over to you now.
Brilliant. Hello. So Parable Dance, I formed with my business partner Erica back in 2019, just before the pandemic hit, so that was really great timing on our part. We provide opportunities for people with learning disabilities and without through dance, and we really believe in the benefits of dance, supporting people's confidence, creativity, communication skills, as well as basic life skills and independence. Parable Dance is based at my part of Parable Dance UK is based in Brighton, and Erica has moved back to New York, so we have Parable Dance New York as well now, which is very exciting. And then we deliver training nationally. So the way that we actually survived the pandemic was to diversify. We deliver a lot of training anyway, but we really gave that a focus during the pandemic to make sure that we survived. And we deliver lots of stuff online as well as internationally. Let me just click. So in 2021, we were funded by Active Sussex. We were really lucky that as part of their strategic work with children and young people, we could get funding to start up a project. And then we also had a couple of other small pots of funding as well that contributed. The project was to deliver outreach workshops in schools around Sussex as a way to spark interest in dance and to get young people from the schools that we met to come and join us in some weekly classes. So we went out to their schools so that we could meet them in an environment that they were familiar with, to then kind of coax them along to come and join our classes. So part one, this is a lovely dancer who's Phoebe, who's in our classes now. We spent time emailing and calling schools. So this, obviously, we've talked about how difficult it can be to set up a project. I think you mentioned earlier about making a flyer and then just hoping people will show up. And we knew that we needed to put in a lot of legwork for people to know why it was valuable to come to us. So we were emailing schools, calling them, trying to identify the most suitable contacts. And in lots of cases, COVID restrictions were really stopping us from getting in. So there was quite a few projects that were really delayed by COVID restrictions. So we were, arranging workshops and they were getting pushed back and pushed back. We delivered 2-hour sessions in every venue, and that meant that we were able, in some situations, to meet 2 classes of young people. So kind of accessing more children in those schools. And our outreach workshops were all delivered by both an experienced inclusive dance teacher, and then in every single session we had an experienced inclusive dancer, so somebody with learning disabilities themselves co-leading. And that was a really important part of the project for us because it's about having role models, as we were talking about earlier. And in certain cases at Woodlands Mead, for example, we went in and delivered a workshop, and it was so important to them as an aspect of the project that when they booked us to come back for another project, they specifically requested that this dance artist Lauren was part of this project for their young people. So that's a really kind of important part of what we did. After every single workshop, we shared the flyers, so it went out in newsletters, and we took the flyers with us so that they went out home with people. And as I mentioned, we were invited back to Woodlands Mead and some of the other schools as well. So it's helped us to create some really wonderful partnerships with schools that are carrying on and continuing. So the first part was the outreach. We danced with 65 young people across 6 school visits. We also, thanks to Active Sussex funding, had a parallel project for adults. So we had 6 adult visits as well into different day centres, for example, to create an adult weekly class as well. So there's some lovely pictures from some of the sessions that we delivered. So part 1 fed into part 2. So part 2, it's always been our goal to have weekly classes in Brighton for children and young people with learning disabilities. As we said, it's really hard to just kind of go, here we are, come along, come and join us. So coaxing people in and trying to show them the benefits of why it's important, it can be really tricky. So in January 2022, we launched our weekly classes and we hired a space. We were really lucky that we have partners with South East Dance, Carousel, and then also Amaze supported us too. So in terms of publicity and marketing, getting those companies on our side and promoting our classes was really key as well. And one of the things that we did was we offered really heavily subsidised fees. So we only charge a £5 if somebody has a Compass card. We also have free places if people can't afford to pay. So that's really key for our accessibility as well. So our adult classes instantly filled up. It was really interesting, I think, partly because of our strong partnership with Carousel and the trust that the adults who accessed their services had in knowing that this was a partnership. I think that was one of the reasons. Plus, they already had lots of like the Blue Camel clubbing night, which kind of had already got people moving. So there was a connection there already. For the young people and their families, it was a bit trickier. So there was loads and loads of questions, lots of telephone conversations with the young people and their families, because there was a lot of anxiety around starting a new class. And I think a big part of that is, again, something that was mentioned earlier, that often people's needs aren't met in an activity, and people have experienced activities being a failure, or kind of being met with something that's actually going to knock their confidence rather than increase it. And so there was a lot of conversations, and also most parents and carers stayed in the room for the whole of the first term. So it was a big, kind of felt like a big crowd of people watching a lot of the time. We took time to reassure people, we shared information, so things like sharing our risk assessments, talking about our COVID policies, talking about the training that our staff have, just to make sure that people felt safe in the environment that they were coming to. This is what our young people think. So we are really loving our sessions, and the young people that come are having a fantastic time, and this lovely feedback reflects it. So it was nice and relaxing, it was fun. I like I don't know what that says, the ice word move. I'm not sure, sorry. I loved about dance class today, it was awesome. So where we are now, we're now well into term 2, and we have a full year of funding. Really, really luckily, dance kind of sits across both sports and arts, so I do appreciate that I'm really lucky in that sense. So the Arts Council have funded our next year of classes. We've got to a point where the dancers are really relaxed, they know what to expect, they kind of understand the structure of the sessions, and parents have started stepping out. So we now have, for the most part, most people are unsupported, and their parents don't remain in the room or support staff. And we have 12 regular group members. 4 dancers have joined us actually who are non-disabled, and that's been really key, and it's created a really nice shift, because actually what we've realised is, I was saying I was going to steal your expression about you've got to be exclusive in order to be inclusive, and so we started off as exclusively for people with learning disabilities, but now have this group of girls who've joined us who don't have learning disabilities, and it feels like a really lovely inclusive environment in a really nice space. So thanks to the initial funding from Active Sussex, the relationships that we've built from contacting the schools have really enabled us to meet the young people that we're now working with. And we now have students in the classes from every single one of those venues that we visited as part of that outreach project. And still more, because as you were just saying, people go and talk to their friends, the parents talk to each other, and so the class numbers are growing. So it's really fantastic, and it's, you know, it's down to getting that funding in the first place. I think that's it. Thank you.